Hi again, this is Colby Peters. In part 1 of this series, I showed you how I created and painted a Nautilus shell in watercolor, based on a collage work by Holly Chastain. In this video, part 2, I'm going to show you how I created the waves bursting out of the shell. Instead of notebook paper as in Chastain's work, I'm going to paint them in watercolor. First, I'm going to sketch out the wave shapes with pencil. I like the shapes that Ms. Chastain used, so I'm going to do something similar. We're just going to speed this process up a bit for you, because watching somebody draw in real time can be tedious. Although, if you'd like me to post anything in real time, I'm happy to do that. Just let me know in the comments. Okay, so now I've got my wave outlines. I'm going to paint them in watercolor. I'm going to do the wet on wet technique where you paint the area with water first, then add the pigment. I'm using a lot of water because I want the pigment to swirl around and create a watery look. I'm lifting up the paper here periodically as I add the water so that I can use the light to tell how much water is on there. Kind of hard to see the amount of something that is see-through. I'm adding my first bit of pigment now. I want to leave the top of this wave white to simulate the foamy bits on top of a wave. At this point, I am a very cautious watercolor painter, as you might be able to tell. I'm hoping that with more practice, I will get more confident when I'm applying color. As I paint, I periodically check to see how much water is left on the wave. It dries so quickly that I may need to add more as I go. The first one is finished, so I can move on to the next. I paint on some water onto the lower portion to start. For this one, I decided to use different greens. Here I'm doing the last wave. I'm really happy with the way the pigment is spreading and getting a nice watery look. I decide to go back in and emphasize the wave outlines with some darker pigment. As I'm finishing up the waves, it occurs to me that since the white foamy edges are only outlined with pencil, they are not going to stand out well. I decided to use a tiny bit of blue pigment to go around the edges of the waves so the foam is more visible. Finally, I go back with an eraser to erase as many pencil lines as I can. I know there is such a thing as a dissolvable pencil. The lines go away when you paint over them. But I don't have one of those yet. This works pretty well though. So I'm thinking now about where I want to position the ship in this piece. I've already done the waves, so I'm trying to decide if I want to paint the ship onto the paper over top of the waves, or if I want to paint the ship on another piece of paper and paste it on top. With the watercolor, I'm not sure a ship painted on top will come out well. I also want to see some water in front of the ship, not just behind it. I finally decide to paint the ship on another piece of paper and cut the frontmost wave away from the paper so I can put the ship in between. So the last thing I'm showing you now in this video is how I cut a slit in the paper following the wave pattern. In the next video, part 3, I'm going to show you how I create the ship using watercolor and thread for the rigging. Please feel free to make comments or ask questions. And subscribe if you want to know when the last video in this series comes out. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.